is about to be set ablaze with the best of the best in the series. This is the All-Stars Championships, where our top seeds, along with our Series 3 semi-finalists, duke it out to discover who is the ultimate machine of the series. We have 4 heats to go through before the grand finals, so let's dive right in and kick things off. I am looking forward to the start of the All-Stars Championships. Bunker with their hard armor and their front ramming plow taking on every single weapon we have armed on Destructotron. The CO2 flipper of Aegis taking on the spinning blade drum of Diamond Gutter. But first, what's looking to be a very destructive opening battle between the blade of High AF and the crushing beak of Razor. Let the start of the All-Stars Championships begin! AF Spinner. They had a far greater run this series as opposed to the last wars, and a destructive one at that. And we also got to see them self-right. Kinda. The blade is such a lethal force to be reckoned with, and should be avoided at all costs if possible, and the exposed wheels should be taken advantage of. Razor Crusher. They had a shockingly poor performance this series where they crashed out in the Death or Glory and went flying out of the arena. We have seen how great their drive is in the past, as well as the crushing beak and self-riding wings. But after their performance in Series 3, could this be the end of the Razor machine, I wonder?
Roboteers, stand by.
High AF, with the lethal spinning blade that can adjust its own height. Seriously, that is really impressive, that. And Razor, the part bird, part reptile with a 9 tons of squeezability, crushing claw, and hydraulic self-rating wings.
2,
which, unfortunately, didn't have a great run of things in this series. Went out to Death or Glory, shockingly. And how are they going to do here in the All-Stars? Well, they didn't do well last time. Went out to Chaos 2, and the front tip of that beak's missing, you can see there. That'll seriously affect the effectiveness of the weapon, and that'll seriously affect it. Off it comes! That's the power of the weapon of High AF. And that means not only does Razor no longer have a weapon, but they also have no means of self-righting. That is a problem. And Razor, very lucky to land on the wheels at that point. Razor stopping against the wall as High AF rips into them. And is something wrong with Razor? Well, yes, they're being bullied mercilessly by High AF's blade, but there's no movement. And I'm wondering if Razor's suffering the same problem they did in their fight in the Gold Rumble against Hypnodisc and 259. They're not moving. I think they're immobilized. And they're about to be finished off here. Down the pit. One final nudge from High AF. That secures it. Out goes Razor. They crash into the losers melee. And it's High AF going through to round 2 and showing they're still lethal. Razor has some serious repair work for them down in the pits. Hope they can get it repaired in time. Next up, Aegis and Diamond Cutter. Aegis Flipper. Didn't go far in the last wars, but made it to the second round of the Series 3 semi-finals before falling to Peach and ending up in the pit. The Flipper has shown a lot more potential and power than before, and they have done an extremely great job. However, in this All-Stars competition, they still need to watch out for their CO2 supply. Diamond Cutter Spinner. The team did have a much better series this time around as they made the semi-finals. The weapon had its fair share of effectiveness and even helped right the machine when thrown over. The front wedge was also quite good too, but sadly, I can't say the same for the drive.
Roboteers, stand by.
Aegis with the CO2 powered flipper, and Diamond Cutter with the spinning drum, with the interchangeable front attachment of either a wedge or plow.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Who will come out on top? It'll be a matter of ground clearance, and Aegis seems to have Diamond got the beat on that, and I'm now throwing them up and over, and something's come off. It's part of the flipper wedge of Aegis, and Diamond Cutter in real trouble. And Aegis, one more flip, and down the pit, and that's the end of that. Not really much of a challenge for Aegis. They're through. Diamond Cutter joins Razor in the losers melee. What are you flicking the tires out for? Brilliant. But Diamond Cutter's out, and it's Aegis going through to round 2 of the All-Stars. Meanwhile, Diamond Cutter will have to try and fight back through the losers melee. Next up, Bunker and Destructotron. Bunker! Rambot! The team made the Grand Finals back in Series 1 with Barricade and then fell in the Death or Glory in the Last Wars. The new rebuild has proven to be a somewhat improvement as it still managed to hammer machines out of the arena and the drive is still as strong as its predecessors. However, while it may be as strong, not overly convinced on it being as good. Destructotron! Axebot! Made the Death or Glory again like they did in the Last Wars. Honestly thought they'd do a bit better than that, considering they became the New Blood champions of Series 2. The machine's strengths and weaknesses are well known at this point, armed with lots of different weapons, and has a high ground clearance with no Shreemac.
Robot ears, stand by.
Bunker, with the pure ramming power and the stronger armor on top. And Destructotron, New Blood champions of Series 2 with the axe, spikes, rear circular saw, and the front scoop.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
As well as ground clearance, I just remembered. And Destructotron will be in trouble because Bunker can take advantage of that. But look at this here! Destructotron taking advantage and seems on top until Bunker comes in, and now the spike causing them problems. And now, that's what I thought was going to happen. Bunker getting underneath Destructotron and slamming them into the wall. And effectively controlling them. Because there's not much Destructotron can really do here. Bunker can slide underneath Destructotron, no problems, and throw them down the pit just like that. And that's the end of Destructotron. They're into the losers melee to join Diamond, Cutter, and Razor. You can keep flinging your axe, boys. It's not going to change the fact you're out. Out of the fight, but not out of the All-Stars yet. They still have the losers melee, but here's the lineup so far. The winners, High AF, Aegis, and Bunker. Losers, Razor, Diamond Cutter, and Destructotron. And this is how the losers melee looks with Razor, Diamond Cutter, and Destructotron fighting it out for that final spot in the second round of this heat. Who will it be? Will it be the crushing beak of Razor, the spinning drum of Diamond Cutter, or everything else of Destructotron?
Robot ears, stand by.
Razor with the crushing beak, 9 tons, and the hydraulic wings itself right. Diamond Cutter with the drum spinner and the interchangeable wedge plow configuration, and Destructotron, New Blood champions with, well, all the weapons you can think of.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
I'd love to go behind the build premise for Destructotron. Like, why did you think having all those weapons would help, especially when they can't help you deal with the crushing beak of Razor, who is currently pressurizing down and using that beak to try and pierce through the armor? of Destructotron. It's not really working though. However, it's great at pushing him around. And Destructotron up in the air and in trouble. And Razor stuck against the wall as well. Diamond Cutter. What can Diamond Cutter do? Is Diamond Cutter doing anything? No, they're just gyrating. And Razor flung into the air and off comes the axe! Yeah, the Destructotron's gone! And that's gonna be a problem for them, because look at this. Why were you using it as a battering ram, for Pete's sakes? That was stupid, especially against a drum spinner like that. It's no wonder you lost your weapon. Now, well, they can still use the spikes and plow, but that's about it. Meanwhile, is something wrong with Razor? They're not getting anywhere. I think they're suffering the same issue they did against High AF. Meanwhile, Destructotron giving problems to Diamond Cutter. What was that that just came flying? I think it was off of Razor. I cannot be sure. That bit's definitely off Razor. That's part of the beak. And now Destructotron has lost the tire. A tire is dislodged from the wheel, so now Destructotron can only drive in a circle. Razor thrown upwards. I think I've also lost part of the wing. And I've just been left there, because there's nothing else to do. And now Destructotron's other wheel is gone. And that means that they are well and truly immobilized now. And it's Diamond Cutter who'll be going through just to finish off Destructotron like so into the pit. And now to finish off Razor. And Razor, well, they're on fire now, and that's not something we've seen very often from Razor, if at all. Now into the pit. And Diamond Cutter spinning in the light as they come back into the competition, and they will be taking on Bunker going through. What a shame to see Razor and Destructotron crash out, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Diamond Cutter, last spot standing. Razor losing a wing and becoming immobilized and even catching on fire. Destructotron losing their drive and their axe. Both machines didn't get down the pit. Diamond Cutter gets back into the competition. So here's how round 2 looks, with Bunker taking on Diamond Cutter later on. But first up, it's High AF taking on the CO2 Flipper of Aegis.
Robot ears, stand by.
High AF with the spinning blade that can adjust its own height. And Aegis with the CO2 powered flipper and Kevlar 29 armor to help protect them from the flames.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
How that'll do in terms of bodily protection? Well, it stood up well to Hypnodisc in the semi-finals, and High AF already seem to be in trouble, although they have torn off one part of the flipper wedge and have now, I believe, ripped off the other one they have, and that'll seriously compromise the flipper of Aegis. And High AF's chances of winning, they seemed tentative at first, but now they definitely seem on top. They have no chance. Well, I was about to say they have no chance of getting flipped, but look at that! He just mentioned to get underneath them, and that's without their front wedge mentioned to get underneath High AF and flip them over. And High AF lucky to get away from that. They're very lucky, in fact. And now off comes the rear wedge. I don't really know what that did, but it's on something. And look at that! Part of the armor's gone! Part of the armor to protect the wheels Or at least part of the armor's gone. And Aegis, very slow. They very much slowed. They didn't exactly have the greatest turning circle, to be honest. That was their weakness. And now, off comes another piece of armor, and that's a wheel! They've lost a wheel! They had that problem before against Paige in the semi-finals. Well, I thought the flipper would be useless now without the wedge. And nope, it's still... Well, that was just mean. Flinging away the panel you just tore off. Is it a different wheel or is that the same one? I think that might be the same one we saw. Oh, but look at this now! And that's real problems because that's now fully exposed the electronics for Aegis. And now it's fully exposed. Flip by the floor flipper as well. Look at this. That's the attack. And that's dislodged that side panel. And to fully tear it off, off comes the bottom plate as well. Fully severing it. And now, Aegis in. Well, I think it's safe to say Aegis well and truly immobilized now at this point. And the judges agree they've gone for a cease because Aegis cannot move. Aegis immobilized. IAF very destructively through. And there might be a telling tale going in to the Heat final. That was brutal. Poor Aegis, they stood up better than I thought they would, to be honest. But the outcome was inevitable, I think. Aegis, barely anything left of them, I think, at this point. High AF through to the Heat final. Next up, it's Bunker and Diamond Cutter.
Roboteers, stand by.
Bunker, with the front ramming drive, brute force is their weapon. Diamond Cutter, meanwhile, has the drum spinner and the interchangeable plow and wedge configuration.
3, 2, 1, activate.
Not seeing much of the wedge though, only the plow, probably because it's more effective. And it proves it by getting underneath Bunker and hitting him to the air, not over though, unlike Diamond Cutter, who are up and over, righted, only to gyro themselves back over, and that is the worry. That is the one problem that Diamond Cutter has. They can gyro themselves up and over, and they can give Bunker the chance to come back. And Bunker, again, their weapon is brute force, and they will slam and bam, and they are doing that to Diamond Cutter. And Diamond Cutter now, they seemed like they had a chance at first, but now with Bunker chasing them down, all seems to be going Bunker's way. Once again, Diamond Cutter goes up and over, and it looks as though Bunker will be going through to face off against High AF. That'll be an interesting grudge match, because don't forget the 2-4-4 back in the second wars when Bunker was Barricade. Well, that would be a great fight to see. Another slam into the wall, and now Bunker, Bunker's in the pit! And that is a major surprise! How about that? Look at this! They came on the drive, and they threw themselves too far over the pit! And that's what caused them to crash out! How about that? Diamond's Cutter going through! Only just though! How about that? And I bet Bunker will be kicking themselves for that. They had that one virtually, and they threw it away in the last minute. Diamond Cutter goes through to the Heat final, where they'll join High AF, and they will be lucky if they escape unscathed. But given High AF's track record, let's be real, I don't see that one happening. This should be a interesting heat final between two spinners of different caliber, the spinning blade of IAF and the spinning drum of Diamond Cutter. Quick recap how they got here. IAF tore apart the weapon of Razor as well as the self-raiding mechanism, and after disabling their drive, or something in them broke, one final nudge into the pits was the end. Razor, and then Aegis. The only real bit of worry they had there against Aegis, despite their front wedge being torn away, but the armor could not withstand the lethal attacks of that blade. There came the panel, one of the armor panels to protect the machine, and once everything else came apart, well, that was basically the end of it for Aegis out of the competition. And Diamond Cutter already had an altercation with Aegis earlier, a flip into the pits, and that was the end of them. They came back through the loser's melee, tore off the weapon of Destructotron, and then defeated them, as well as knocked out Razor to come against Bunker, who gave them major worry and only went through because of poor driving on Bunker's end. Will that be rectified in this fight, I wonder? Will their spinning drum and their front plow be enough to take on the spinning blade of High AF that has been such a force to be reckoned with, I wonder?
3, 2, 1, activate.
They've got their work cut out for them, and that's what I thought would happen with those wheels exposed. That's all High AF needed, and that's basically it for Diamond Cutter. The floor's being littered in wheels of... Oh! Nearly into the pit there for Diamond Cutter, which is probably where they should go, really, to avoid any more damage from High AF, who is just tearing their wheels apart. And I think has now severed their drive. Well, maybe not. There's still a couple of wheels left you could probably tear apart. Now, their drive is well and truly gone. And this is the price you pay for having exposed wheels against a lethal spinning weapon like High AF's. Up and over goes Diamond Cutter now. And Diamond Cutter, well, I said they were lucky to be here. If Bunker hadn't driven themselves into the pits, it would be Bunker taking on High AF, not Diamond Cutter. But this is what happened, and Diamond Cutter, I think, well, it's definitely been a better performance for them, it has to be said, but this would be as far into the All-Stars as Diamond Cutter goes. There's no real mobility in them. Their weapon may be driving them, yes, but they are well and truly immobilized. And High AF, oh! High AF's got their front little wedgelets caught on the edge of the pit. And it's reversed into the pit. Wasn't really much they could do, to be honest. So they finished the fight in the pit, but Diamond Cutter, well and truly immobilized. High AF goes through. As destructive as ever a victory for High AF as they predictably make it through to the All-Stars Grand Finals. They're on high hopes of taking home the trophy. But until then, take care, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.